Hey YouTube, today's video is going to be a little different. I'm going to do a how-to video because I haven't been able to find one on YouTube for this, and I thought people might want to see it for working on their own equipment. We're going to learn how to replace or rebuild the SCV outlets on an 8400, and this kind of goes for 20 series and probably 30 series as well, but they're a little different, so I'm just gonna call it 8400 or the 8000 series. But we're gonna start by taking these off, which I've already done, just a few bolts. It's pretty simple. We'll start back here. Here's your outlets, and what ours is doing is they're leaking by, whether it be internally or when we have a hose actually plugged into them, and then it drains it out this tube if all these are open. But basically you lose a lot of oil during a day. We could add hydraulic oil pretty much every day to this tractor. So I've already got all these out and got them rebuilt, but now that I know what I'm doing, we'll start here. Basically, there's, you can't see it, but like in these, behind this dirt, there's a snap ring in here. And you're gonna take that snap ring out once you've got all your lids off. Take the snap ring out, and then technically you should just be able to push this lever down, and it might be kind of tough, but it'll pop the outlet right out. And there's your outlet. Set it over here. Now this one does have one that was really sticky, and I had to end up getting a screwdriver, cutting in this oil journal and prying and pushing on the lever, and it finally popped out. But there's your outlet. And then also, while I'm in here, there's some other stuff to do in here, but get you a wire and some gas or something and clean these out. These also don't let the oil drain out, and it forces it to come out here and get all over your hoses, and well, you can see what goes on there. But if you clean these out and take this hose off, you can run a wire up this way, and you can also run it this way, and then keep flushing that with gas, and it'll get these where all your oil at least run to the ground instead of all over the back of your tractor. But we'll take this over here to the bench, and I'll show you how to break it down and what to replace in it. Okay, we're here at the bench. I like to start off, which not all people do this, but I use gas as a cleaner. So I got a bucket of gas here to get it from being so oily. Makes it easier to handle. Just anything to clean oil off, basically. Get that all kind of cleaned up, dried up. We're gonna start by taking this snap ring right here off. Retaining ring, snap ring. One of these magnetic trays is handy too for this. Once you've got that off, this whole slide is going to pull off, and all these balls are going to fall out. So be ready. You lose one of them, they're hard to find on the shop floor. So like I said, magnetic tray, do it over that, they stick to it. Once we've went that far, I'm gonna have to move you guys, and we're gonna stick this on the vise and break it apart farther. Okay, for this may not be kosher, but I've got a punch that'll fit through two of these holes, like so. Stick it in the vise, give it a clamp, 1-inch wrench, hold the top of your punch, and she's broke loose. They're really not that tight. Once you get it broke loose, just spin it with your fingers. Okay, now that we got that broke loose, we're gonna unthread it and kind of keep some tension on it, because there's springs in here and it'll kind of want to blow apart on you. But not bad. I mean, that right there is all the tension, but if you ain't watching, you'll lose pieces. We bring that apart, That's what the inside of that barrel looks like. Shouldn't be anything in there as long as this piece comes out with it. You've got this piece, which is the only piece that I can say that you could have leaking. It's got a rubber O-ring around it that's non-replaceable. It's made to the seat. I mean, there's a chance that it could be leaking by there on your tractor, but you can kind of inspect it. I mean, all these I've done so far look good. They ain't tore up or rough or anything. You've got that piece, then you've got this stack of springs. Just want to make sure you kind of keep them all together. I've been washing everything off, like I said, as I go. And then if you pull this stem out, which some of these are a little different depending on what serial brake you have of tractor. Some of them have this long stem, some of them have a shorter one. Don't really matter, it's the same piece. Then you pull this out. You pull this out. It should come out either by itself or with this piece behind it, which this piece here has a tiny little spring down in there. You don't want to lose it. Clean it up. I don't know if you can see the spring. There it is. Tiny little spring goes down in there. And then your last piece here is just this. And this plastic in here will face up. So whenever you put it back in there, it's gonna look like that from behind, but we'll get to that later. Get all that cleaned up, and we're gonna start the rebuild process here. Okay, so this is the first piece I'm gonna rebuild. You have two O-rings on this piece. You've got this one, which it ain't really an O-ring, it's kind of a funny rubber type deal that goes over a shoulder. And then you've got this O-ring around here, which I've got to get my kits. So what comes in this kit is this O-ring, goes here. The bigger O-ring goes around it, and then this other O-ring will go in here in a minute. Basically, just pop this off. Try poking yourself in the finger. Pop that one off. And pop this one off. And this one here, I don't know if the camera will pick that up, but it's got kind of a ledge in there that goes over this ledge. So whenever you kind of roll it on there, and it'll set down over that ledge. And then this O-ring, just roll it around that. That piece is done. And then you've got an O-ring inside this barrel here from the side you took it apart on, not the side that usually faces out. So not this side, this end with the threads. There's an O-ring right inside that little bitty one. We're gonna peel it out of there. There it went. Now this one is a little hard to get in there. I usually poke it past the hole and then pull it back up to me. Seems to work the best, but I'm pretty sure they actually make O-ring tools to do this with. It'd be a lot handier, but I don't have them. I just have picks. Okay, I got that one down there. Just make sure it's seated good. And that does it for splitting that part of it. So we're gonna go back together with it now. Start with the back piece. Make sure it's clean. No dirt, debris. Okay, like I said, we're gonna stick this piece in with the gnarled side facing downward. holding the cup like this. It'll go through a little hole back here, like so. Then you're gonna stick this piece that has a little spring in it straight down in there. It'll kind of go down in there and it makes this spring loaded. And then you can stick this piece on top of that piece, and this piece will go over this with this rubber piece facing down. This shoulder sticks out. I'm gonna push it together. You get something looking like this. Then your spring goes over this stem. Make sure it's down in there good. They'll kind of get bound up together. And then this goes on top of the spring. You'll have this. But before I do that, I'm gonna replace one other thing. Got ahead of myself. While this is empty, I like to replace this O-ring in here too. There's an O-ring and a backup ring, and a lot of times these are the root of the leak, because this one here, it's all chewed up from pulling the outlet or the hose in and out of this outlet. So basically, take the O-ring, and if the retaining or the backup ring is still in there, you'll pull both of them out. See, this one was rotten. I mean, it's just chewed up, rotten, and there is no backup ring left. It's gone. Your backup ring, an O-ring, come in a package, look like this. It's a flat O-ring. Here's the backup ring, just plastic. Now I may do this backwards to some people. I put the backup ring in first, and then pull my O-ring to the back side of it, because this backup ring is stiff, because it's hard plastic, but it seems to be easier to put in if you do it first. Each to their own on that. That's the way I'm doing it. Once the backup ring's in, I run my pick around here and pull it to the front side. So the backup ring is going to be to this side. You're going to put the O-ring behind the backup ring. It's going to be to this side. This O-ring is kind of fat. It can be contrary to get in there. That was probably the worst luck I've had on one of these so far, but finally got it in there. If you can see down in there, but backup ring, O-ring. Once you've got that in, we'll jump back to this. Get this all stacked up. Simply stick it back in there. Push this back together. Thread it together. We're going to stick it back in the vise. Tighten it down. I'm certain there's a torque rating that these are supposed to be torqued to. I'm just tightening it about as tight as I can get it without breaking anything. That's tightened. Now you've got this tightened, you're going to set it aside. We're going to move to this piece here, front collar. It's got one O-ring around it here, and it's got a plastic ring inside here. I'm just going to go ahead and take both of them off. Maybe. There we go. There's one. There's two. This other kit you'll get, if you buy the same kits, it actually comes with enough of these to do a full set of 2 of these, or these anyhow, and then it'll have a set to go in the tractor, which we'll do in a little bit. Basically, you just roll this ring on here, and you roll this plastic ring here. Like this. Of course, it's not going to cooperate neither. There we go. Sometimes I take a pick on this one and use the back side of the pick, roll it around the edge of that, make sure it's properly seated. Okay, that does it for this being rebuilt, other than putting this back together. You gotta put all these balls back in here. So I hold it about like this. Right there I go, drop the ball. Luckily, it didn't fall far. I just hold this like this, start sticking balls in there, give it a half a spin, stick another one in, keep doing so until all the balls are in here. About dropped another one. There we go. Once they're in, push that down and snap your retaining ring back on. Make sure it's in the groove all the way, or you'll pull on this and your balls will fly everywhere. So that's rebuilt. You're done here. We'll go to the tractor and I'll show you what's going to be rebuilt in there. Okay, we're back here at the rear end of the tractor. And like I said, I'm going to clean these. I don't know why it's not good for that, but I don't know if you can see how much dirt's in these drain holes, but I'm going to clean them up first before I do this, so that if I get any dirt back there, it's not between my new seals. But basically, I'm going to try to get you to see that white ring in there. You pull it out, and below that white ring is an O-ring, and you pull it out and then replace it with the ones that's left in this kit. You put the O-ring in first, and then you put the white retainer over that. After that, if you got all your outlets done, you're done. I mean, that's all I'm rebuilding on this, and maybe this ain't the proper way to completely rebuild these, but so far I think it's gonna work, because like I said, I think oil's either leaking around here when it's in here, or it's leaking when we're connected with that O-ring right there and that coupler. So I'm just replacing all the O-rings, because this tractor's, well, probably like a 97 model. So, oh, and I forgot to mention, going back with your outlets once they're rebuilt and all this is rebuilt, you do the same thing, only backwards. But in all honesty, sometimes to get this past the snap ring groove, take a screwdriver and put it around the outside edge and just give it a bump with your fist, and make sure this lever is pushed all the way up, or otherwise it'll try holding you out. Push this lever all the way up, give it a tap, that sleeve will slide back in there just far enough you can snap your O-ring in there, or your snap ring in there, sorry. Anyhow, that's how you put that back together, and then you put your face plate back on and you can figure out the rest. But anyhow, that's gonna do it for this video. If you like these videos, be sure to like and subscribe and share. Show people what we're doing here. I know this is a little different video for anybody that's normally watching, friends and family. Thank you. But it's just what I'm doing today. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.